Hi, you're on Reddit Confessions. She stood in the pouring rain with a black umbrella she never owned before. The kind with a gold tip. I saw her from the other side of the cemetery fence. Her face pale, eyes scanning each headstone like she expected one of them to talk back. She had no idea I was 20 feet away, watching her mourn a man who wasn't even dead. That was the second week after I vanished. I remember because it was the first time she didn't wear makeup. Something about that hit me harder than any of her betrayals. She was unraveling. Before that day, I watched her from shadows. Not obsessively, methodically. I saw her tear through the house looking for my documents. I saw her scream into the phone, demanding someone get results. I watched her search homeless shelters, hospitals, even morgues. She whispered my name to a priest and then cursed it in the next breath to a cop. I became the man who vanished without a reason, without a note, without a fight. But what she didn't know is I had a reason. I just wasn't ready to let her know it yet. It started 3 months earlier, in the quiet way endings usually begin. I came home to find the garage empty, her car gone, lights off, dinner cold. Normal by then. But that night I noticed something that hadn't been normal. 2 wine glasses in the sink. One still had lipstick. The color she never wore around me. I didn't say a word. The next night, she came home humming. That broke me more than shouting ever could. Because I hadn't heard her hum since her brother's wedding. Back when we were still real. I checked our security camera. She'd unplugged it. That was the moment. The one I don't talk about. The one where something inside me went quiet, permanently. I didn't make a scene. I didn't confront her. I started peeling back the layers, tracing texts, patterns, credit card slips. I even waited outside a boutique hotel, and sure enough, saw her walk out with a man in khakis and fake confidence. He opened her door. She kissed his cheek. She never kissed mine anymore. So I disappeared. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. I stopped clocking into work. Took only what I earned. Left behind the rest. My phone, my ID, the keys to a life that had already been emptied. She thought I was dead. But I was never more alive. And I was just getting started. I never imagined silence could scream so loudly. By the 3rd day of my disappearance, she'd told everyone I was missing. Friends, co-workers, her sister in Oregon, even my old boss who probably didn't even know we were still married. Her voice on the 911 call, yes, I found a copy later, trembled just enough to sound believable, but not enough to suggest real grief. That detail ate at me more than anything else. She wasn't devastated. She was inconvenienced. Meanwhile, I was watching everything from the cracks. Noelle checked our shared bank account every morning. I drained it the moment I left. Not to punish her, but to survive. I wasn't reckless. I didn't buy anything traceable. I used cash, stayed in basement rentals with no leases, dressed like I didn't exist. Because to her, I didn't anymore. She hired a private investigator named Micah Barnes. I found his name by lifting her emails from the cloud. He had a military haircut, a coffee addiction, and way too much confidence. I followed him once just to see how good he was. He wasn't. He spent 2 hours outside my old gym, thinking I'd just show up like nothing had happened. Idiot. But even amateurs get lucky. Micah found the motel I'd stayed in during week 2. I had already left by then, but when Noelle showed up there in person, something strange happened. She didn't look angry. She looked scared. She whispered to the front desk clerk, handed over a photo, then left in such a hurry she forgot her scarf. It was red. Kept it. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt something worse, doubt. What if she actually cared? What if I was wrong about everything? That night, I sat in the corner of a laundromat at 2 a.m., clutching her scarf like it held answers. I told myself it was just part of the plan. She needed to feel the loss. She needed to feel exactly how she made me feel for years. Hollow. Invisible. But what I didn't know yet was that Noelle had a secret of her own. And it was the one thing I hadn't prepared for. Not even close. By the time the 3rd week passed, I expected her to start moving on. That was the idea, right? To force her into a world without me and see how long it took for her to replace the silence with someone else's voice. But instead of forgetting me, She started acting like she was the one left behind in a storm. I watched her change routines, miss hair appointments, walk aimlessly in stores without buying anything. She wasn't performing for anyone. She looked genuinely unwell. That should have made me feel something. Didn't. Not yet. Then something strange happened. She stopped checking the morgues. I know because I followed the pattern, watched her calls, her online search history, the places she visited. At first, she'd been thorough, desperate even. But suddenly, that urgency was gone. It was replaced by something quieter. She began avoiding certain places altogether. Our old diner, the trail near the lake, even my mother's grave. It was as if she couldn't risk running into my ghost. Then she did something I never expected. She mailed a letter. Not to me. She didn't know where I was, but to someone named Clarissa Beck. A name I didn't recognize. I intercepted the envelope before it could reach her. It was handwritten, no return address, just the familiar slant of her rushed script. I held that envelope in my hands, knowing I was about to cross a line. I opened it. Inside was a single page. One sentence. If you ever tell him, I swear I'll drag us both down. I read it 3 times before my body even reacted. My stomach tightened. My pulse stuttered. That letter wasn't meant for me, and yet it had everything to do with me. I didn't know who Clarissa was or what she might have known, but I knew one thing. Noelle was hiding something. Something she thought would destroy her if it ever reached me. Suddenly, the game shifted. I wasn't just a ghost anymore. I was a fuse waiting to be lit. I couldn't stop thinking about that letter. If you ever tell him, tell me what? What had Noelle done that required a hidden threat and a name I'd never even heard? Clarissa Beck wasn't a friend, coworker, or relative, at least not one I could remember. I combed through Noelle's old emails, social media follows, even RSVP lists from weddings we'd attended. Nothing. Clarissa was a ghost, which made her perfect for someone like me to find. It took 4 days and a burner laptop to get what I needed. A single billing address buried in a 2016 PayPal invoice tied to one of Noelle's deleted accounts. A stained glass workshop receipt. And a name. Clarissa Beck, Santa Fe, New Mexico. I bought a bus ticket under a fake name. No credit trail. No ID needed. Just a hoodie and a bag of questions. The ride took 2 days, and the entire time, I stared out the window rehearsing how I'd even start the conversation. Hi, you don't know me, but I disappeared and your friend might have been cheating or covering up a crime. Want to chat? Clarissa lived in a modest adobe house behind an art studio. Her mailbox was decorated with ceramic cats and turquoise beads. Not exactly the type I imagined Noelle threatening. I watched her from across the street for hours, trying to read her body language. She moved carefully, like someone with history in her spine. On the second morning, I left a note in her mailbox. Just 5 words. He deserves to know. Talk? I didn't expect her to respond. But later that night, while I sat eating vending machine peanuts in a rented basement suite, someone knocked. It was her. Clarissa didn't say hello. She just stepped inside, took off her scarf, and looked straight through me. She told me you were dead, she said, as calmly as if she were commenting on the weather. I froze. She lied about a lot of things. But if you really want the truth, you need to ask yourself something first. What? I asked, my voice cracking before I could control it. Do you want the truth? Or do you want revenge? And just like that, everything I thought I was doing began to unravel. Clarissa didn't blink once as she sat in the worn-out chair across from me. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear. It was something else. Resentment, maybe, or regret. Noelle used to be different, she said quietly, like she was trying to convince herself it had all really happened. Before him, that phrase hit me in the chest. I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice even. Before who? Clarissa looked out the window, like she expected someone to be listening. There was a man. Not Travis or whatever name you found in her texts. This one came before all of that. Before the distance. Before the cold shoulder. You don't know him because she buried him like she tried to bury you. I sat back, my thoughts stumbling over themselves. She wasn't making sense. What does that mean? Buried? Clarissa shook her head. Not literally, but close enough. His name was Gage. He and Noelle. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to run away together. He was married too. 2 kids. Then one night he just vanished. My stomach twisted. Vanished. I repeated. Like I did. She nodded slowly. Only difference is you're still breathing. My head pulsed with heat. I had never heard that name. Never once. Noelle had never even hinted at something like that. So what happened to him? I asked. Clarissa hesitated. His wife got a call the night he disappeared. A blocked number. A woman's voice told her, "Don't waste time searching. He's not coming back. He chose this." Clarissa paused. That voice. It was Noelle. I know it was. She admitted it during one of our fights years ago. Swore me to silence. My skin went cold. "And you kept that secret?" I said, almost whispering. Clarissa leaned in, her eyes rimmed with guilt. "Because I didn't know what else she was capable of. And honestly, neither do you." Couldn't sleep that night. The thought haunted me. Maybe I hadn't disappeared to punish her. Maybe I disappeared just in time. After Clarissa left, I sat in silence for hours, staring at the scarlet scarf Noelle had left behind at the motel weeks ago. I twisted it around my hand like it might somehow ring out more answers. The name Gage looped through my mind like static. I couldn't stop imagining what happened to him. If he was watching her from a distance too, or if he'd never gotten the chance to disappear like I had. That night, I dreamt about being buried alive, and I woke up gasping in the dark, convinced that someone had locked me inside my own past. I didn't want to believe Noelle was dangerous. Detached? Yes. Cold? Lately. But calculating? Capable of making someone vanish and then gaslighting their family into silence? That version of her felt like a stranger wrapped in my wife's skin. And yet, I couldn't ignore what Clarissa had said. She had no reason to lie. If anything, she'd risked more than I had by coming forward. The next morning, I did something I hadn't dared until now. I drove back to my old city, disguised, wearing a hat low over my face and clothes that hung awkwardly on my thinner frame. I didn't go to our house. I went to the storage facility on 48th Street, the one we'd used during the kitchen remodel 2 years ago. Noelle had insisted on keeping the key. She said she didn't trust the movers with her private things. I never questioned that. I wish I had. Breaking into it wasn't hard. The lock hadn't been changed. The air inside was musty and stale, but the dust couldn't hide everything. Old boxes of photo albums. A broken lamp I thought we'd thrown out. And something in the back, covered with a floral sheet. I pulled it off slowly. It was a safe. I didn't have the code, but I didn't need it. What I had was time, and a reason. It took me 3 hours, a rusted screwdriver, and a cracked knuckle to get that safe open. The metal finally groaned like something surrendering after years of silence. Inside, I didn't find gold or cash or any grand symbol of betrayal. Nothing like what I'd imagined on the drive over. No, what I found was far worse. A stack of photographs, dozens of them, each wrapped in an elastic band. Most were of people I didn't recognize. Men, some with Noelle, some alone. Each photo had a name written on the back in her handwriting. First names only. Grant, Eric, Miles. And then I saw it. Gage. He was real. Standing beside her in one photo, holding a drink, arm around her waist like they were married. She wasn't smiling in any of them. She looked calculated, comfortable, like she belonged in those images far more than she ever had in ours. But that wasn't the worst part. Beneath the stack was a thumb drive and a manila envelope. Inside the envelope was a death certificate. Gage's name, accidental drowning. But the date didn't line up. It was filed almost 3 months after the alleged incident. And there was no police report, no medical records, just a note clipped to the paper with the words, "Let this be enough." I plugged the thumb drive into a borrowed laptop back at the basement suite. Contained audio files. Recordings. Dozens. Most were just background noise. Conversations, maybe ones she secretly recorded. But one of them chilled me. It was her voice. "I told you to disappear, Gage. You didn't listen." Then static. Then a splash. I didn't move for 10 minutes. Just sat there, heart stuttering, the sound echoing in my ears. All this time I thought I was the one punishing her by disappearing. But maybe, just maybe, I had saved myself. Noelle didn't lose people. She erased them. And now I wasn't sure if I was her unfinished project, or her next one. I didn't run. Not this time. I thought about it. God. I thought about disappearing even deeper. Burning the photos, tossing the flash drive in the river, pretending I never found that safe. But that would have been the old me, the quiet, bent version of myself who let people walk through him like fog. No, this version of me was done hiding behind shadows and regret. I made copies of everything. Photos, audio, the letter to Clarissa, even the fake death certificate. I mailed one set to an attorney whose name I found in Clarissa's old workshop files. Another to Gage's widow, whose address I tracked down through property records. And the third? I left it inside Noelle's car one morning while she was at her gym, tucked neatly into the center console, labeled only with, "I saw everything. I remember everything. So will they?" I watched her from across the parking lot when she came out. She sat in the driver's seat, opened the console, and froze. Her expression didn't change. No fear, no panic. Just silence. The same kind of silence she once left in our home. And then, for the first time in years, she cried. Not publicly, not theatrically, just one honest, cracking sob into the steering wheel before driving off like she didn't know who she was anymore. And maybe that's how it ends. Not with sirens. Not with courtroom drama. Just a woman haunted by what she did. And a man finally free from being the ghost of her story. I didn't go back to my old life. I started over, quietly. Small town. Honest job. My name's still Delbert, unfortunately, but now it feels like it belongs to someone who knows what they're worth. I still walk alone sometimes, just to remind myself I exist. And not in the background anymore. I exist in full color now. So, what moment in the story shocked you the most? Was it the letter? The safe? Her breakdown? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't yet, subscribe for more stories like this, right here on Reddit Confessions.